The ultimatum, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from dozens of worlds gathered on Nexus Prime. Reed sat quietly in the human section, his dark blue uniform neat and pressed. He watched as the massive doors at the far end opened with a deep rumble. General Krell entered with heavy footsteps that echoed through the chamber. The Veltar commander stood nearly 8 feet tall, his thick gray skin covered in battle scars. His red eyes swept across the room before settling on the human ambassador. Behind him marched 12 Veltar warriors, their black armor gleaming under the bright lights. The other alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Everyone knew why the Veltar had called this emergency session. For months, there had been rumors of their growing interest in human space. The Veltar Empire had conquered 43 worlds in the past century. They had never lost a single battle. "I speak for the mighty Veltar Empire," General Krell announced, his voice booming across the hall. "We address the humans directly." Captain Reed stood slowly and nodded. "I am listening, General." Krell pulled out a metal tablet and began reading. "The Veltar Empire demands the immediate surrender of all human colonies beyond your home system. You will also pay tribute of 1 million tons of refined metals each year. You have 48 hours to accept these terms." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Several alien ambassadors began whispering frantically to their assistants. The Corvin delegate dropped his datapad with a loud clatter. "And if we refuse?" Captain Reed asked calmly, his hands clasped behind his back. General Krell's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "Then the Veltar Warfleet will teach you the price of defiance. We have destroyed species far stronger than yours. Your people hide behind diplomacy because you are weak. You build trade ships instead of warships. You seek peace because you cannot win wars." The Veltar commander activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Images of burning cities and shattered fleets appeared, showing the aftermath of previous Veltar conquests. The footage was brutal and clear in its message. "These worlds thought they could resist us," Krell continued. "The Draxi had shields that could stop any weapon. The Nexan Alliance had fighters that moved faster than light itself. The Corvani Republic had warriors who never retreated. Where are they now?" Captain Reed studied the images without changing expression. "I see. And you believe humanity will share their fate?" "I know you will," General Krell replied. "Your species has been in space for barely 2 centuries. We have ruled the stars for over 1,000 years. You have never fought a real war against a galactic power. We have crushed dozens of them." The human ambassador nodded thoughtfully. "You make interesting points, General. However, I cannot speak for my government on such important matters. I will need to consult with Earth before providing an answer." Krell slammed his fist on the nearest table, causing several smaller aliens to jump. "There is nothing to discuss. Accept our terms or face destruction. Those are your only choices." "Nevertheless," Captain Reed said quietly, "I must follow proper procedures. Humanity values careful consideration of all options." The Veltar general laughed, a harsh sound that filled the chamber. "More proof of your weakness. A strong species would give an answer immediately. But very well. You have 48 hours. Use that time to prepare your surrender documents." As the Veltar delegation marched out of the hall, the other ambassadors began talking in urgent whispers. The Alterian representative leaned toward Captain Reed. "You cannot seriously be considering resistance," she said. "The Veltar have never been defeated. Your fleet is tiny compared to theirs." Captain Red smiled politely. "Humanity will provide an appropriate response within the time limit." Back on Earth, Admiral Stone received the message in the underground command center beneath Geneva. The War room filled with officers as he read General Krell's ultimatum aloud. When he finished, silence filled the room. Recommendations? Admiral Stone asked. Colonel West spoke first. Our intelligence suggests they have over 10,000 combat ships. We have barely 200 vessels that could engage in deep space combat. Their technology? The Admiral inquired. Standard plasma cannons and energy shields. Nothing we haven't seen before from other species. They rely on overwhelming numbers and superior firepower. Admiral Stone walked to the large display showing human space. Red markers indicated the positions of Veltar scout ships already moving toward the border. How long until our preparations are complete? 18 hours, sir. All ships will be in position by then, the Admiral nodded. Send word to President Walsh. Tell her it's time to show the galaxy what humanity has been working on for the past 50 years. In her office, President Walsh read the report twice before setting it down. She looked out the window at the peaceful Earth below, knowing that in 2 days, everything might change. Admiral Stone is confident? She asked her aide. Yes, madam. President, he says we're as ready as we'll ever be. President Walsh signed the authorization order with steady hands. Then let's remind the galaxy why humanity chose to be peaceful by choice, not necessity. The countdown had begun. The declaration 24 hours had passed since the ultimatum. General Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, watching thousands of Veltar warships gather in formation. Each vessel bristled with weapons capable of turning planets into ash. The sight filled him with pride. Status report, he commanded. All 10,000 ships are in position, General, his aide replied. The fleet is ready for immediate deployment to human space. Krell nodded with satisfaction. He had grown tired of waiting for the humans to respond. Their silence was answer. Enough. It was time to make an example that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Open a channel to all frequencies. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this. The communication officer worked quickly at his station. Channel open, General. You are broadcasting to over 3 billion receivers. General Krell straightened his massive frame and began speaking. His words reached every corner of civilized space, from the crystal cities of Alteria to the deep mines of the Corvan worlds. Citizens of the galaxy, I am General Krell of the Veltar Empire. Today marks the beginning of a new lesson in power. The humans have refused our generous offer of peaceful surrender. They choose war over wisdom. On dozens of worlds, aliens gathered around screens to watch the broadcast. Many had never seen the full might of the Veltar fleet displayed at once. The images were overwhelming. Behold the strength that has conquered 43 worlds. Krell continued, gesturing toward the endless rows of warships behind him. 10,000 vessels of war, each one capable of destroying entire cities. This is what awaits any species foolish enough to defy the Veltar Empire. In the betting houses of Nexus Prime, odds were being calculated. Most bookmakers refused to take bets on how long humanity would survive. The few who did offered odds of 1,000 to 1 against human victory. The humans believe their diplomacy will save them. General Krell laughed. They think words can stop plasma cannons. They imagine that peace conferences can deflect antimatter. Torpedoes. They are about to learn how wrong they are. On Earth, Admiral Stone watched the broadcast from his command center. Officers around him maintained professional calm, but he could see the tension in their faces. The Veltar fleet was truly massive. Admiral, Colonel West said quietly, their numbers are even higher than our estimates suggested. Noted, Stone replied. Any change in our deployment schedule? No, sir. All ships will reach the rendezvous point in 14 hours. Admiral Stone nodded. He had seen impressive fleets before, but none quite like this. Still, numbers were not everything in modern warfare. General Krell's broadcast continued across the galaxy. We have studied human military capabilities. Their largest ships are cargo vessels converted for combat. Their weapons are designed for defense, not conquest. Their commanders had never faced a real enemy in battle. The Viltar general activated another holographic display showing human ships from intelligence reports. The vessels looked small and simple compared to the massive Viltar warships. In 6 hours, our fleet will enter human space. We estimate total victory within 12 hours of first contact. The human colonies will surrender or be destroyed. Their home world will learn the price of defiance. On dozens of worlds, alien leaders began calculating how this would affect their own territories. With humanity gone, the Viltar Empire would control nearly half of known space. Some species began preparing their own surrender offers. President Walsh sat in her office, listening to the broadcast with her security council. The room was quiet except for General Krell's booming voice. Madam President, her military advisor said, our embassy on Nexus Prime reports that most alien governments expect us to surrender within hours of first contact. And Captain Reed? Still maintaining diplomatic protocols. He sent one final peace offer to General Krell 30 minutes ago. President Walsh almost smiled. I assumed the general was not interested. He responded by calling humanity a race of cowards and promising to enslave any survivors. The president looked at the authorization. Codes on her desk. Then Admiral Stone has full authority to proceed as planned. The moment of truth, General Krell stared at his dead control panels, refusing to believe what was happening. Around him, his officers frantically tried to restart their weapon systems. Nothing worked. The quantum disruptor field had turned his. Mighty warships into floating metal boxes. Status report. He bellowed. All weapons offline, General, his tactical officer reported with shaking hands. Shields are down. We cannot even charge our plasma cannons. Then restart them. Override the systems. Do something. We have tried everything, sir. The human technology is blocking all our military functions. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Stone watched the Viltar fleet drifting helplessly. In space, his officers waited for orders, their fingers ready at their control stations. Admiral, Commander Hayes said quietly, they are completely defenseless. We could capture their entire fleet without firing a shot. Stone shook his head. General Krell chose war over diplomacy. He threatened to enslave humanity and destroy our worlds. The galaxy needs to understand the consequences of such choices. The Admiral activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships prepare to engage. Target acquisition protocols are active. Fire on my command. Across the human fleet, weapons systems that had been hidden for decades suddenly came online. The outer hulls of the human ships opened to reveal massive particle beam arrays. Antimatter torpedo tubes extended from concealed bays. The true nature of humanity's cargo ships was finally revealed. General Krell watched in horror as the human vessels transformed before his eyes. Those are not merchant ships, he whispered. Those are warships disguised as cargo vessels. His communication officer managed to establish contact with Admiral Stone. Please, Krell said, his voice no longer filled with arrogance. We surrender. Your technology has defeated us. There is no need for more violence. Admiral Stone's face appeared on the Viltar screens. His expression was calm but cold. General Krell, you declared war on humanity. You broadcast to the entire galaxy that you would enslave our people and destroy our worlds. You gave us no choice but to respond. But we are defenseless now, Krell pleaded. Your disruptor field has removed our ability to fight. Show mercy. You showed no mercy to the 43 worlds you conquered, Stone replied. You promised to destroy human colonies and enslave survivors. The galaxy is watching, General. They need to learn what happens when someone threatens humanity. Throughout the galaxy, alien observers held their breath. The betting houses had fallen silent. Government leaders watched their screens with growing alarm as they realized what was about to happen. On Nexus Prime, Captain Reed stood in the Galactic Council chamber, which had been hastily reconvened for emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species watched the displays showing the battle. The humans are about to demonstrate something, Reed said calmly. I suggest you all pay close attention. Back in space, Admiral Stone gave his final command. All ships, you are authorized to fire. End this threat to humanity. The human fleet unleashed weapons technology that had never been seen in galactic warfare. Particle beams that could cut through any known armor struck the Veltar ships with devastating accuracy. Antimatter torpedoes exploded with the power of small stars. The advanced human weapons were 50 years ahead of anything else in the galaxy. General Krell had time for one last transmission before his flagship was hit. This is impossible, he said. Humans are supposed to be peaceful. You build trade ships and send diplomats. Admiral Stone's response was heard across the galaxy. We are peaceful, General. That is why we tried diplomacy first. But being peaceful does not mean being helpless. Humanity learned long ago that sometimes peace must be defended with superior firepower. The destruction of the Veltar fleet was total and swift. 10,000 warships that had conquered dozens of worlds were erased from existence in less than 30 seconds. Where the massive enemy armada had floated moments before, there was now only empty space and scattered particles. The silence that followed was deafening. Across the galaxy, alien observers struggled to process what they had witnessed. The most powerful military force in known space had been completely destroyed in half a minute. Commander Hayes stared at the tactical display showing clear space where the enemy fleet had been. Admiral, all Veltar ships have been destroyed. No survivors detected. Admiral Stone nodded. Send a message to Earth. Tell President Walsh that the threat has been eliminated. What about the other alien governments watching? Hayes asked. They have learned what they needed to learn, Stone replied. Humanity prefers peace, but we are prepared for war. Any species that chooses to threaten us will face the same fate as General Krell. On his flagship, Admiral Stone composed a message that would be broadcast to every world in the galaxy. This is Admiral Stone of the Earth Defense Fleet. The Veltar Empire chose war over peace. They threatened to destroy human worlds and enslave our people. We gave them every opportunity to choose diplomacy instead. The message continued as images of the destroyed fleet filled alien screens across the galaxy. Let this be a lesson to all species. Humanity seeks peace and friendship with our galactic neighbors. But we will defend ourselves against any threat, with whatever force is necessary. In the Galactic Council chamber, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. Captain Reed walked to the center of the room. The demonstration is complete, he said quietly. Humanity remains open to peaceful relations with all species. However, as you have seen, we are fully capable of defending ourselves against aggression. The Alterian ambassador was the first to speak. Captain Reed, how long has humanity possessed such advanced weapons? We have been preparing for this possibility for 50 years, Reed replied. We hoped it would never be necessary, but we learned from galactic history that some species only understand strength. An emergency vote was called immediately. The Galactic Council unanimously passed a resolution declaring humanity a protected species. No member government would be permitted to threaten or attack human territory. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was peaceful by choice. Not weakness. Asterisk the galaxy's reaction. The destruction of the Veltar fleet sent shockwaves across the galaxy that would be felt for generations. Within hours of the battle, emergency sessions were called on every major world. The species that had ruled space through fear and conquest for over 1,000 years had been erased in 30 seconds. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with urgent conversations. Representatives who had been placing bets on humanity's destruction now scrambled to understand what they had witnessed. Captain Reed stood calmly at the human podium, waiting for order to be restored. "The emergency session will come to order," announced the council chairman, an elderly Alterian whose hands shook as he spoke. "Captain Reed, the council requests an explanation of the events we have just observed." Reed nodded politely. "Honored. Delegates, what you witnessed was the result of 50 years of human preparation. When humanity first encountered galactic civilization, we studied the history of interstellar conflicts. We learned that aggressive species often target peaceful ones, believing them to be easy prey." A Corvin ambassador interrupted. "But your ships appeared to be simple cargo vessels. Your military was considered the weakest in known space." "That was intentional," Reed replied. "Humanity decided long ago that the best defense was to appear harmless while developing superior technology in secret. We built our warships to look like merchant vessels. We trained our officers in deep space facilities far from galactic observation." Murmurs of amazement swept through the chamber. The Draxi representative, whose own world had been conquered by the Veltar decades earlier, stood up. "You mean to say that humanity has possessed this level of military technology for decades and never used it?" "Correct," Reed said. "We hoped it would never be necessary. Humanity genuinely prefers diplomatic solutions to conflicts. But we also learned from your experiences that some species only understand strength." The chairman leaned forward. "Captain Reed, your quantum disruptor technology is unlike anything we have ever seen. How is it possible to disable an entire fleet instantly?" Reed smiled slightly. "Human scientists spent decades studying alien weapon and shield systems. We discovered that all galactic military technology operates on similar energy frequencies. The quantum disruptor creates a field that interferes with those specific frequencies while leaving other systems untouched." On Earth, President Walsh addressed the planet from her office. Crowds had gathered in cities around the world to hear her words. "My fellow humans," she began, "today our species faced its greatest external threat. The Veltar Empire demanded our surrender and threatened to destroy our worlds. We gave them every opportunity to choose peace. When they chose war instead, we responded as we had prepared to respond for 50 years. The president paused, looking directly into the camera. "Let me be clear about humanity's position. We remain committed to peace, diplomacy, and cooperation with all galactic species. But we will never again allow ourselves to be threatened or intimidated. Any species that chooses aggression against humanity will face the consequences." Admiral Stone returned to Earth as a hero, but his first stop was not a celebration. Instead, he went directly to the Global Defense Council for debriefing. "Admiral," asked General Park, "how do you assess the galactic reaction to our demonstration?" "Better than expected," Stone replied. "Intelligence reports indicate that at least 12 species that were planning aggressive actions against various neighbors have canceled those plans. The Bringan Empire has withdrawn from 3 disputed territories rather than risk conflict and potential threats to humanity." Stone consulted his tablet. "The Zephyr Collective was reportedly planning to test our defenses next year. They have sent a formal peace treaty instead. The Crimson Raiders have redirected their fleets away from human space entirely. Within days, the effects of humanity's demonstration rippled throughout the galaxy. Species that had been planning expansion through conquest suddenly found diplomacy much more attractive. Trade agreements that had been stalled for years were quickly finalized as alien. Governments sought to improve relations with humanity. The betting houses of Nexus Prime faced their biggest losses in history. Bookmakers who had offered odds against humanity scrambled to pay out the few gamblers who had bet on the humans. Most had lost fortunes assuming the Veltar would win easily. More importantly, several aggressive alien empires began reconsidering their military strategies. The hegemony of worlds, which had been preparing to invade the peaceful Andorian system, instead opened diplomatic negotiations. The Iron Claw Alliance withdrew their war fleets from the borders of 3 different species. Captain Reed received a flood of communication requests from alien governments. The Nexan Republic, which had been destroyed by the Veltar 20 years earlier, sent a message of gratitude from their exile colonies. The surviving Droxy leadership thanked humanity for avenging their fallen homeworld. But perhaps the most significant change was in how other species viewed peaceful civilizations. For centuries, aggressive empires had targeted diplomatic species, seeing them as easy conquests. Now, every galactic government had to consider whether a peaceful appearance might hide advanced defensive capabilities. 3 months after the battle, Admiral Stone stood before the Global Defense Council for his final report. The demonstration achieved all strategic objectives, he said. Immediate threats to humanity have been eliminated. Galactic respect for our sovereignty has been established. Most importantly, several aggressive species have turned to diplomacy instead of conquest. President Walsh smiled. And our defensive capabilities? Secure, Stone replied. Intelligence suggests that no current galactic power possesses technology capable of countering our quantum disruptors. However, I recommend continued research and development. History shows that military advantages are temporary. The president nodded. Approved. Humanity will remain prepared for peace and ready for war. As the meeting ended, Admiral Stone looked out the window at the peaceful Earth below. Children played in parks while their parents worked in offices and factories. The planet looked exactly the same as it had before the crisis, which was exactly how humanity preferred it. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Species that chose diplomacy found humanity to be generous partners and loyal allies. But those who chose aggression discovered that peaceful did not mean defenseless. In the years that followed, historians would mark the destruction of the Veltar fleet as the beginning of a new era in galactic politics. The age of conquest through superior numbers was over. The era of peace through superior technology had begun. And at the center of it all, humanity continued to do what it had always done best, building trade ships, sending diplomats, and quietly preparing for whatever challenges the galaxy might bring. The enemy had declared war. Humanity's fleet had erased them in seconds. The galaxy would remember. Asterisk.